Studio 1 in Berlin. Dort, wo Knowledge auf Entertainment trifft. Wo sich Kulturgrößen und Szenekenner über den heißesten Scheiß austauschen. Größer als der Hype. Realer als die Realität. Genau dort steht auch ein kleines Studio 2. Und von hier kommt die neue Ausgabe von Oh Schuhen, der Sneaker-Podcast mit Simon Buß und Amadeus Thüner.
Schönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen zur 78. Episode von Oh Schuhen. 3 Jahre alt nun, fühlt sich irgendwie an wie eine Woche. Gleichzeitig, wenn man uns sehen könnte, könnte man aber auch meinen, es sind schon 30 Jahre. Aber dafür machen wir auch einen Podcast, ne? So oder so. Episode 78, mein Name ist Amadeus Thüner. Auf der anderen Seite sitzt wie immer der wunderbare und gut aussehende, gleichzeitig allwissende Simon Buß. Und mit dieser Vorstellung kann man eigentlich perfekt in diese Episode starten. Findest du nicht? Schon, oder?
Du, ich bin gerade einfach noch beseelt von diesen ganzen Komplimenten und diesen netten Worten.
Ja, ist mal wieder an der Zeit. Wie geht's dir, mein Lieber? Alles gut?
Ach, alles ganz zauberhaft. Und selbst?
Ja, nö. Also viel Klagen hilft ja wenig. Also von daher, nee, Quatsch, alles gut.
Oh Mann.
Weißt du, was ich gesehen habe?
Nee.
Pharrell hat sein eigenes Hotel in Miami eröffnet, dass man...
bringt uns jetzt halt einfach nicht so viel, ne? Also, mit Reiseembargo und Gedöns.
Sollte man also wieder die Möglichkeit haben, könnte man jetzt dort einkehren. Weswegen ich das aber so krass finde, ist, ich möchte auch eins haben. Ich habe mir vorgenommen, ich möchte ein Hotel haben. Ja, also Pharrell...
Ich schenke dir Monopoly zu Weihnachten.
Danke. Schenk mir lieber das Monopoly Geld und mach Echtes daraus. Dann könnte das eventuell klappen. Also Pharrell hat das Ding Good Time Hotel genannt, was ich erstmal total schön finde. Das ist außerdem sehr stilistisch schön eingekleidet und sieht einfach wahnsinnig gut aus. Also wer das noch nicht gesehen haben sollte, kann sich das unter anderem bei Architectural Digest auf dem YouTube-Account angucken, wo ich das heute auch gesehen habe. Weswegen ich darauf überhaupt komme. Das heißt, meine Idee und mein Vorsatz, ein eigenes Hotel besitzen zu wollen, ist eigentlich noch gar nicht so wirklich alt. Aber ich finde, wenn man Dinge laut ausspricht, dann werden sie zur Realität. Oder zumindest fühlt man sich dann dem Druck ausgesetzt, das irgendwann umsetzen zu müssen. Also, ich hätte gerne ein eigenes Hotel. Fänd ich stark.
Finde ich, ist eine super Idee. Ich wäre auch definitiv mit dabei. Und wenn man sich die Bilder mal anguckt und das gleichsetzt mit seinem Sneaker-Design, seinem auch Klamottendesign, Cactus Plant Flea Market und allem, was er da so macht, dann passt das Hotel, finde ich, auch optisch so ein bisschen zum guten Pharrell. Und da bin ich ganz glücklich, dass nicht ein anderer Adidas-Kollaborateur dieser Tage ein Hotel eröffnet, weil so ein fransiges Sean Wotherspoon-Hotel wäre jetzt nicht so ganz meins.
Mir fällt aber gerade auf, ich finde es echt fies, dass keiner mein Wortspiel mit Sean Wotherspoon gewürdigt hat, wenn man aus seinem SE ein ZX macht. Aufgrund seiner Kollaboration.
Oh. Ja,
anscheinend.
Das hast du gut gemacht.
Okay, danke. Das wollte ich mir jetzt eben abholen. Ich finde, das ist eine verpasste Chance seitens Adidas. Man hätte ihn einfach Sean Wotherspoon nennen können. Aber gut, mich fragt ja keiner. Simon, was hast du heute am Fuß?
Ich habe das letzte Mal, als wir in dieser Runde zusammensaßen, New Balance getragen, eine New Balance 992, um genau zu sein. Und ich habe mir gedacht, never change a running system, trage auch dieses Mal New Balance, ein 860 V2 OG ist an meinem Fuß. Und bei dir, Amadeus?
Nike Dunk High Pure Platinum. Punkt. Das kannst du besser machen, als einmal klassisch weißen Schuh an den Fuß zu ziehen.
Nicht sehr viel, außer vielleicht einen New Balance 860 V2 heute.
Darüber
aber ansonsten auf gar keinen Fall. Und damit starten wir rein in diese Episode, die, und das sei an dieser Stelle angemerkt, in freundlicher Zusammenarbeit mit StockX entstanden ist. Und für unseren Gast, den wir heute haben, der uns in dieser Episode begleiten wird, werde ich jetzt die Sprache wechseln, damit der auch versteht, was wir hier quatschen. Our guest in this episode actually has his second appearance on our podcast today. Almost exactly a year ago, we already had a great conversation in episode 55 with StockX Senior Director Europe and sneaker connoisseur Derek Morrison. We talked about treasures that were sold way too early to make money, Vince Carter's long-thought 1998 rookie trading card, the rise of StockX, luxury fees and data leaks, but also about his own wine podcast. Today, we continue the conversation because StockX celebrates its 5th anniversary this year and brought its own cake to the party by just being rated over $3.8 billion US-Dollar. A huge success story. Congratulations. And we wanted to know what happened since we last talked over 12 months ago. What are the plans for 2021? How does StockX react to the completed Brexit? What are the effects of COVID on the company? How important are Pokemon trading cards really? And what are the new ideas for the platform? Derek, welcome back. How are you?
Hey guys, great to be back. What has happened in the last 12 months? How the world has changed and not changed at all since we last spoke. So
yeah, definitely.
It feels like it was 10 years ago and also 10 minutes ago. I'm very, very confused, but I'm really glad to be back and chatting with you guys about all the things you just brought up, Simon. So there's lots to get into. I'm looking forward to it.
Good to have you back. And to start this episode of Right, what's on your feed today, Derek, and why?
Well, the boring answer is there's nothing on my feed. It's COVID. I'm still working from home, so I'm not wearing any shoes right now because I haven't left the house in what feels like 3 days. But I am definitely. What have I just picked up? So the 2 pairs that I just copped. While we were sitting here, I got a notification that one's on its way to the authentication center, and one's on its way to me. And those are the Medicom Dunk SBs that I think are such a steal. Those like that black kind of pony hair. I couldn't believe that they were only 180 pounds. I think is what I got them for. So I was like, that's crazy. Ooh. That's such a steal for a shoe. So I bought those, and I bought the camcorder Dunk SBs as well that aren't quite as much of a steal, but that's such a great shoe. I think we talked about last time what I loved about SBs is shoes that have a great story, and I think both of those SBs are kind of slept on for having great stories behind them. So anyway, shout out to the Medicom the kind of the Medicom Dunk SB right now. I think that's a steal. Absolute steal.
Good choices, definitely. It's almost a year ago since we last spoke. So you already said it feels like 10 minutes or 10 years. Let's just stick to the 12 months. What happened then? What are the things that come to your mind first?
Yeah, well, I think I could probably group like what's happened into a couple different buckets, right? I think we talked a year ago. I spoke pretty candidly about a lot of the things we were working on from like an experience perspective that we were trying to improve on the platform for people who use StockX, especially in Europe and especially in Germany. And so I think in terms of regards there, I'm really proud to be back here a year later saying I'm a man of my word on a lot of those things. So luxury fee is gone. We've now gotten to free shipping for all German sellers. Things like that I think are just really exciting milestones for us to continue to improve on. And so I feel like while there's still lots of things we're focused on improving in the user experience, I feel like a lot of those big egregious pain points we're starting to kind of solve for some of those, which has been a really important thing for us to do. So that's, as I've always said, like we're working on these things. They're really important to us and we know they're important to the users. And I'm really glad to be here a year later saying like, and we've delivered on a lot of those promises. And then the other side of it is like, a year ago, there were a few different categories that we certainly weren't talking about. We weren't talking about electronics on StockX. We weren't talking about Pokemon cards. We weren't talking about a lot of these trends that we've seen in the last 6 months, 8 months, 9 months that have really, really blown up and been a big part of the StockX evolution, which I think is really exciting. And, so I think that's definitely an expansion. Obviously, we just continue to grow. I mean, we continue to grow. I think that's a good sign that we're improving our experience and people are having a great experience with us, finding great products at fair prices. We've seen a lot of growth in the last year from a lot more female users using the platform, which is exciting. That's up over 100% year over year. We've seen I'd say growth in users that are my age or older. So it's not just the cool kids that are running circles around us. We're seeing a major growth in users that are actually over 45. That's been pretty interesting to see. And then really beyond electronics and consoles, which has been a new category for us. collectibles, trading cards, which is something that I think we talked a bit about last year, but I don't think any of us would have envisioned Pokemon cards to have had the explosion that it did in the latter part of the year. Even though I should go back and listen to the episode. I think we might have talked a bit about Pokemon cards, but certainly not with the level of ambition that we saw. And look, what's great is StockX is Simon, thanks so much for calling out like the funding round, and obviously what we continue to expand and as a global business. But the European story within that is increasingly important, and so it's just great for us to champion what's happening in the market and to be able to continue to find ways to activate. And the excursions, we did an Excursions Berlin thing in partnership with Being Hunted. That was great to find some ways to storytell, unique narratives in the German market, which I think were really important. And we've done a couple other exclusive product releases in Germany in the past 12 months as well. We did our first DropX with the German partner with Kelvin Colt, which was incredibly successful, him and Kasper Mazzi. We did a DropX with Souvenir around one of their Unify hoodies, which I thought was really exciting. And then another one with Being Hunted. And so we're, lots happened. Lots happened in 12 months. That's just I'll save some of the trend stuff to dive into. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really like what's changed in the world of this kind of cultural community that we all live in. And I think we've been a mirror to a lot of that and been able to kind of provide access to some of it. But also just what can we continue to improve for the experience for the German user who loves and wants to use StockX.
That's already been a lot. I first want to start off with a question to the luxury fee. That was one of the major points you had in episode 55 when you visited us for the first time. But you said it's one of your highest priorities. How did you solve this problem or this issue?
Yeah, I mean, there's the biggest challenge with StockX in what we do is we've always been very steadfast in wanting to preserve a global marketplace and to be truly global. Other marketplaces will kind of have, there's your German version of the marketplace and your UK version of the marketplace, but and they kind of create a bunch of independent, non-connected marketplaces. But for us, this is really a global culture. This is a global community, and being able to preserve the global exchange of products within that community is always been something that's absolutely critical. And that's why we never wanted to create a European version of StockX and a US version of StockX and a Japanese version of StockX, because as I've said before, getting some of those interesting, unique products from Japan is something that I always want in Canada and I still want in Europe. And so we always, when you try to preserve that, you're always having to navigate the import, export fees, dynamics, and costs that go along with shipping something from Japan to Germany and the import VAT and things like that go with it. And so when the luxury fee used to be a way of, whenever something would go from Germany to some country in some countries in the world, wherever the buyer may have been, we were incurring a major cost as a business for the import fees associated with that shipment, and we didn't have a way to recoup them. And so we've basically been able to evolve our marketplace to be more dynamic in how it accounts for all of these import-export fees as they apply to transactions all over the world in a way that helps basically make it more fair for all sides of the equation. And so it's, that's maybe a vague answer, but it's really around how do we solve for this dynamic that's always changing. And we've just been able to build solutions within the marketplace that help to account for that, so that we can basically have those costs incurred and factored in where they need to be sorted by. And so that was easier said than done because of the fact that no marketplace has ever existed to achieve these things anywhere in the world. And so we kind of had to build it and figure it out. But it's such an important thing that's unlocked. And really, as much as people think about what that fee was for sellers, it's such a great unlock now for buyers, because now there's so much more higher value product in the regions that are available to them at a much lower price, because you can source it in market. Sellers are attracted to sell it there. So it was really just such a big win to have that feature improved. And I hope lots of people listening have no idea what that fee is that we're talking about because they've never seen it. So
that would be the best.
I don't know how many listeners above 45 we have, but
a few. There are a few.
So I already mentioned StockX is celebrating the 5th birthday this year. Kids would now be tested for their ability to join school, to make their next steps in life. To stay in this metaphor, what did StockX do really good in the past 5 years? And where do you still have to do some homework to really be prepared to what's coming up next?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, we really talk about, it's not just sneaker culture anymore, right? It's we call it current culture. So it's like accessing the now. What is the now? It's not just luxury. It's not just street culture. It's a bit of like everything that touches these generations, right? So we know we understand this, I think, better because we've spent so much more time with understanding our community, and I think that's what enables things like Pokemon cards, which maybe people didn't see coming, that fit so seamlessly into our platform. And so I think it's really understanding that audience and like what's important to them. And we know that sport, music, gaming, design, culture, sneakers, fashion, that these are all part of the same fabric of things. And so what are the products that help people enjoy those areas of their life? What are the most desirable products in those categories that are important to people in a way that's elevated and cohesive? So, if you engage with music, if that's a big part of your passion, like what are the elevated products that help you enjoy music? Well, Beats by Dre headphones, Bang & Olufsen headphones, like those are on StockX. AirPods, things like that. If you're a big gamer, what are the products that help you engage with that? Obviously PlayStation 5 consoles, which are really hard to get. NVIDIA graphics cards right now are really hard to get. So these types of things are all available on StockX. And so those are the kind of things that we're trying to naturally expand with, because these are the areas that our consumer who's already on our platform buying SBs and Dunks, that they're also passionate about these other things, and we want to make sure that we're able to offer them the things that are hard to find in a safe and transparent and trustworthy way. And so I think we started to understand that consumer better, and so we're able to kind of start to increase our offering of products that are there beyond just the other collectibles and things. And it's less about what is resale, what is hype. I really think we're entering a kind of post-hype era. It's what are people excited about that they want to have access to, and for whatever reason, that access is limited. We want to be able to provide a solution to that. And so I think we've definitely evolved beyond just sneakers, but it's really about like, what is that consumer and that audience that is engaging with sneakers? What are they interested in? And how do we continue to expand our proposition to meet more of the dimensions of their life that are important to them? Because we think that ultimately that supports their relationship with us, right? I've always said that, we're not dependent on one brand or dependent on one product. Sneaker trends will come and go. There will be, different silhouettes now popular than were popular a year ago. But what we are dependent on as a platform is a vibrant, healthy culture. And so how are we working with people to perpetuate that culture? What are the brands and products and stories that we need to tell that people are excited about? And then how do we start to use the next evolution, which is to the second part of your question, Simon? How do we work with independent designers, independent brands, independent creators to bring those products directly to that audience? So instead of you having to go sell your stuff at retail, like we did with Calvin Colt and Casper Mazzi, why don't you just take that product and sell it directly through our platform to that audience? Why don't, and how do we do more of that with more drop X's, with more of these types of product releases? So I think that's where you'll start to see us go more in the future, is working more with brands directly to take product directly to the consumer. And again, getting away from this whole idea of like, what is the resale premium? What is the hype? What is the profit there? And more around how do we spread and increase access to all these great products for people, whether it's Lego or, art prints or Pokemon cards or sneakers or a hoodie. I think that's where we're going to continue to evolve, as long as we can continue to engage with the audience to provide the things that they want.
Just a question that comes to my mind if you say this. Who would you then describe as your competitors? Is it like other platforms in the same business of resale market, or is it players like Foot Locker or whoever?
Obviously, we look at other marketplaces. Anyone who is a big player in the sneaker game is obviously an important person for us to pay attention to understand what are the things that they're doing. But I really think as we continue to expand and we continue to hone in on this like current culture landscape, I think it's more of how do we evolve, read, and react to the consumer. I really think that those are the biggest things. I don't think it's really one competitor anymore because of how diverse each category is. So, maybe we're competing more with an eBay for Lego trades, but we're competing with a different marketplace for sneakers or consoles. And so I think it's as we continue to be more diverse, I really think the biggest obstacle we face is just ourselves in terms of being able to adapt and react and improve the experience of proposition to those consumers, because there's so many features we want to change and improve for the platform and build that like we need to just continue to focus on improving our proposition and keep being committed to the customer and their experience as the way forward, and not worrying about like who's it's like if you're in a track race, you don't look over your shoulder to see who's trying to catch up to you. You need to focus on the finish line. And from my perspective, our finish line is what's that next milestone for the customer? What's that next product category that we need to launch and deploy? Because it sounds simple, but because of our authentication and all the things that go into our business model, there's a lot that goes into expanding and adding a new brand, right? Because we need to build up knowledge, we need to build up the authentication guides and things like that. So if we're looking over our shoulders too much to see what other people are doing, I think it distracts from the future of nobody's done what we hope to do ever before. And so we kind of need to keep our head forward, I guess, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of I hope that explains.
StockX is rated just a little below $4 billion after 5 years. Just to give you an example, I did Turnschuh TV, my YouTube channel, for 5 years, and nobody even thought of rating it. So I guess it makes the whole team at StockX very proud, but are you also a little bit afraid where this will ultimately lead you to?
I mean, I don't think we're afraid. I think it's what is the expression? With great honor comes great responsibility, right? I think that's maybe a bit cliched. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an incredible honor to have received, that people perceive us that way as a business in the investor community. I think when we at StockX, and we're working every day, and the rest of the international leaders and global leaders, we look at StockX and say, well, gosh, we're still like just day one. We're still just day zero. We're still really just getting started, because there's so much opportunity internationally. There's so much opportunity in Europe. There's so much opportunity in terms of the product categories that we work within. So I feel like we're just really scraping the surface. And we also know that nothing is owed to us as a business, right? We need to continue to evolve, because otherwise you become obsolete very quickly. And you can look around darling tech companies who have had enormous valuations and that are essentially don't exist anymore. And we certainly want to build a business that is, valuable over time, not valuable tomorrow. And so I think we see it as these are the steps that we take, and these are great validations and encouragements to get. But I really feel like we're just getting started. And if I look at in Europe, I've been with StockX for 3 years now. I still feel like we're just getting started. Like we're just starting to really deliver on some of the promises. But we think if we can continue to improve and we can continue to evolve and react cleverly to innovate with our consumers, that's the key to becoming a much bigger company. But yeah, it's pretty wild. I think it is, just to look at how much we've grown in 3 years since I joined in Europe. We went from being me by myself in Europe to now a phenomenally sized team with multiple authentication centers, and really just starting to, I think, create resonance in the communities that are important to us. And I certainly don't feel like we've finished the job yet at all.
One of your top priorities besides the luxury fees were the Vince Carter rookie season trading card from 1998, or has been the trading card. Have you been successful?
You know, I haven't. I left that bin. I renewed it a few times and it never got accepted. And I should have just pulled the trigger on the one that was priced over. Somebody must have seen that I was bidding and they got cold feet and said, "Guys, I got to buy it." I can say that I've bought a lot of trading cards, a lot of NFL, American football trading cards with a lot of rookies from last year. It was a great rookie class. So T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, a bunch of Mosaic Panini blaster boxes. Basketball wise, I'm going to be hunting for a LaMelo Ball rookie card, even though he's broken his wrist now. I think he's still going to be, that's going to be a valuable card. And there's some great rookies in that class. So, and then I bought a bunch of Shining Fates. I was chasing for Charizard as well. Didn't find any Charizard in my boxes, but so I bought quite a bit of Pokemon cards as well. So I've had a lot of fun with the trading card experience. And I don't know if you guys have gone into it, but trading cards and break and like participating in case breaks is so much fun. It's like Christmas when you're sitting there watching a video and like waiting for you're waiting for your pack to see what you're gonna get. I mean, it's just a lot of fun, and the feeling of just buying a box of cards and opening them, and you feel like a kid on Christmas. So trading cards has been definitely something in the last 12 months that I've spent some time on, but sadly no Vince Carter rookie card.
Yeah, I still have to check if I'm rich, but that's maybe another topic. So let's stick to this cultural collectibles. You said StockX more and more develops from a sneaker and streetwear second market to a destination where hypebeasts find everything they need, except of houses, furniture, and cars. Is this wide range of products your ultimate advantage? And could that be sometimes where that this could happen, that you can buy a Porsche 911 on StockX?
I mean, never say never, right? I think it's possible. It's certainly possible. And the other thing that's a very interesting conversation is when we look at the world of like fractional ownership and NFTs and all these kind of buzz things that have been happening, like, or are you investing in 1/60th of a Porsche 911, right? Is that like ever something that's going to happen? Now, none of these things are immediately on the roadmap. We're not going to be trading cars. We're not going to have fractional shares. But I think as we continue to evolve as a platform, we want to always be thinking about what is that next frontier? How do we continue to innovate and evolve as a marketplace based on where our consumer wants to go? And I think as long as it fits within the ethos of what we think our audience is, what's important to our audience, or what we think is important to this, cohesive, threaded cultural tapestry that we want to stay within, then we'll be constantly evaluating things to expand into. So I'll never say never. I mean, if you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have thought that Pokemon cards would have been such an important part of the last 8 months, but it was. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to cater to that audience because they were also buying hoodies, and those same people were buying games on StockX, and they were buying sneakers. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going to a whole new different community. It's like these people are already on our platform. And so yeah, I think that we'll continue to evolve, and you'll see some things like that. But we always want to make sure that we're rendering that through the lens of, what makes sense to our consumer, what makes sense to this cultural fabric. So yeah, we'll continue to evolve, but I think we want to always make sure that we are not losing sight of where we are right now, and making sure that those expansions aren't distracting from the improvements we need to make within the existing experience as well. And that's a big part of it. So that will always keep us from going as fast as maybe the ideas come in, because we need to make sure we're responsible in how we do that.
Okay, then let us coming back to the base. What do you think is the sneaker trend of 2021? Because last year we saw the Dunk hype, we saw the steady hype of Air Jordan 1s, but this year Travis Scott almost released 5 Air Max 1s, but now they are still incoming soon, so maybe it's the Air Max 1 which will gonna be huge. What do you think? Is the Nike Dunk still the best thing out there?
I think we talked a bit last year of how I saw, like, the evolution of sneaker culture, a bit like the evolution of hip hop, and where I think the kind of the. So I'll make this analogy again, because I don't know if we actually talked about it last time, but essentially I feel like, sneaker culture was kind of like underground hip hop in like the 80s and like the late 80s, or in just let's say the 80s. It was like a small underground community that had like a very tight community, and that started to evolve, and then it traveled geographically, but sneaker community was kind of underground. And then, you still had East Coast, West Coast, you had all these different diversity within it, but it wasn't really until hip hop was on the radio in the late 90s and became really mainstream that it blew up to a whole new scale, right? And I think you could look at the kind of the peak Yeezy, Virgil, the 10 as that kind of almost that hip hop on the radio mainstream breakthrough that we saw over the past few years in sneaker culture. And a lot of people said when that happened in hip hop that this would be the death of hip hop, right? That's it. Hip hop is kind of like lost itself. It's gone too mainstream. It's over now. It's lost its integrity. But really what's happened since hip hop broke through on the radio with 50 Cent and Eminem and everybody else in the late 90s is it's not died at all. It's become a much more diverse world that breaks its own genre, right? It's not, you can't even think of hip hop means one thing anymore as it used to mean. And so I think, when you look at like people like Tyler, the Creator, and the super producers and everything else that's happening in hip hop, you have all these different subgenres and niches within hip hop that are very different to each other, but I think very, very important to this evolved culture. And so people who started listening to hip hop on the radio then started finding other bits of hip hop and going underground and finding their own niche within the culture that actually they started to resonate with. And I think that relationship and evolution of the audience that found hip hop through the radio is kind of what I'm hoping and anticipating is going to happen with sneakers. So a year ago or 18 months ago, you wouldn't have imagined that Adidas and Nike would release two super hype shoes on the same week. It wouldn't happen. It was very controversial if they both released a product on the same Saturday on the same week, right? Because there was only one slot. Let alone Nike would never have released 4 hype hot drop shoes in the same week of itself. But now I think it's kind of sneakers broken through that mainstream moment. There's runner culture has got a bigger audience now. Dunks, Jordans, Off-White, Travis's, like you're seeing a much more dynamic and diverse sneaker world of releases that are happening right now. And resale premiums, if you look at a lot of shoes, they're actually not as crazy on release day as they used to be. There's not so many shoes now that are going for 500% or 600% retail, whereas it used to be kind of one shoe every month at least that was going for that kind of profit. Now the resale premiums are a little bit more modest. So there's more accessible shoes. There's more releases than ever, but there's more diversity within the releases. So if you don't like Dunks, that's okay. You've got great Air Maxes that have come over the last 12 months. You've got great other silhouettes and Sakai releases and dynamic products like that. New Balance is doing the most incredible shoes that I think we've seen in the last 5 years. Adidas, I think Yeezy is doing its best, even though not all of them are reselling at premium. That's great. So I think if you look at sneaker world right now, it's to me more reflective of hip hop now than hip hop on the radio in terms of you can go listen to Post Malone, you can go listen to Kid Cudi, you can go listen to Jay-Z or some of the old school like guys from the underground era. So I think that's what I think is starting to happen is there's more and more people buying sneakers to support it. So I really feel like we've entered already this post-hype era. I don't think brands are chasing for radio hits anymore. Brands need to start chasing for resonance and meaning and substance in the products. And I think when they do that, sometimes there's more of a resale premium because the market is responding to what they create. And that's why I think New Balance is doing some of the most amazing stuff in sneaker world right now. I think the choices they're making in terms of the collaborators, the people that they're working with, they're not hype. They're great designers, they're great creators, but they're not classical, like they're not Travis Scott or Virgil Abloh, right? Salehi Brambury from Versace is like, if you know, and you have great respect for what he does, but people listening to the radio aren't going to know who he is in the sneaker world, right? New Balance's design, like their craftsmanship choices in terms of the quality of production, working with Joe Freshgoods, working with Paperboy in Paris, working with Pata. They're working with credible, iconic people, but the resale premiums are coming as a consequence of the great thing that they're creating together, as opposed to the thing that they're chasing. Do you see what I mean? And I think that is a really exciting thing to monitor as I follow what they're doing, because I think it's so exciting. And I think you'll just see more and more of that type of evolution of the culture. And so I think New Balance is going to be a really big one to follow. The stuff they do with Casablanca is great. I think I cannot wait to see what Jerry Lorenzo does with Adidas basketball. I think that's one of the biggest things that certainly happened in the last 12 months that people aren't giving enough credit for. I think Yeezy is doing the best shoes that they've ever done. I think their design ethos is incredible. And even if people aren't like hype about them, I think that in 10, 15 years, we'll probably be looking back and talking about, wow, look at that Cloud 450. That was a provocative design. Wow, the 700 V3 was like an incredible design breakthrough in terms of sneaker provocation. And then of course,
almost like every drop by Yeezy and Kanye West.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about them as a brand. I think that the history will be kind on the Yeezy brand, because I think it's just so unique in terms of what it does from a design perspective. And then I never will, Nike's the GOAT. Whatever, I don't know what's going to be trending yet, but Nike knows. I think I seem to see a lot more Huaraches getting kind of posted in interesting places. I think that's going to start to be a silhouette that gets some retro shine. Everything they're doing with Jordan 1 and the Jordan 4 this year looks pretty exciting. And I can't see what Virgil and Travis. I think they'll continue to do great stuff, but I think they will continue to be big milestones in the culture, but they won't be the only thing. And I think that's a good thing for a healthy sneaker culture. So yeah, that was a bit of a long answer, but I really think that we're entering this new era of sneaker culture that I think is I'm really optimistic about.
But do you think that we don't see the 20 important releases of this week anymore? Do you think it transferred more into 40 important releases or more into 4 important releases? Do you think it's getting bigger, or will it be less releases in a week?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of I find it almost hard to keep up with myself. There's so many. And
that's why we are doing own news. Because definitely, because we thought about the fact that it's so crazy to keep on with all these different releases, all these different leaks, and all these different images which are floating around the internet. So we said we have to do a podcast format to combine everything. And we thought about that maybe this will be like 2 or 3 minute long episodes. And it turns out they are 10 or 12 or 15 minutes long, because it's so much what is going on there.
Yeah, I think it's such an important thing to capture. And I think if the culture was dependent on this exclusivity, hype, and that was what the culture was built on, then this would be a really big risk, right? I think, and as my hypothesis of it, and maybe this is what I hope we're entering a post-hype era, because it means that people will be engaging with the products that they care about. And the stuff and instead of being told what they should buy based on what's hype and what's going to resell, they're going to buy what they feel is compelling to them. So for me, I find some of the Dunk SBs compelling, and I find some of the Dunk SBs to be super not for me, and I don't care. I find some of the Yeezy products to be really compelling for me, and I'm glad that they're not reselling, because that's where I want to go spend my money. So I think as long as there is meaning to the product being created, and that people are now starting to think about, why do I want to buy that shoe, as opposed to, oh, I need to buy that shoe because everyone else is buying that shoe. And if they start to think more for themselves, then the variety is great, because I don't want to just listen to what's on the radio. I want to go and discover my own tastes and my own music and my own corners of the culture. And so I think then the variety becomes good, in that if you're into runners, there's great. There's a lot more runners coming out, and some people for it. And then there's less competition because people are distracted by a bunch of different things. So I think the noise tames some of the hype in itself, which is maybe a good thing. I do think the bigger challenge with that these brands will have to answer to is, are they being responsible brands in terms of how they're producing? Are they producing too much?
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, I think that's a different question altogether that I think we need to have a reckoning with, of making sure we're making products that are meaningful and making sure that we're responsible stewards of the earth. I think is a difficult balance to reconcile, but I think that's ultimately what's going to depend on, is there too many or too few releases? Is if all of the releases are super vacuous and don't have meaning and don't resonate with people, then they will be making too much and the products will sit. If they're creating products of meaning, like I think New Balance is doing, I don't think New Balance can make too many shoes, because they're really making something beautiful for the cultural community and championing the right kind of creators that I think deserve attention. So I would hope that they would continue to expand.
Yeah, people are sitting in their homes for almost 1.5 years now, so to do it in a positive way, home sweet home. But they're sitting in their homes buying stuff online, and of course on StockX. And the biggest pain point for almost every bigger company is the customer service. Sometimes it seems that it's a trending topic for you as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the opportunity you have with customer service is one of the most important things that any business, let alone e-commerce business, has, right? It's a way to inform the things you need to improve in your overall business experience that you provide to the customer, or it's a way for you to address and solve problems that people might be having for whatever reason. And when you're at the size that we are, obviously, even if 99% of the people are having a great, seamless, flawless experience, there's still a lot of people in that 1% that you need to be able to support. And so we've definitely, there's no more important area for us that we continue to focus on as a business than improving our customer service. So, I mean, we've invested a lot in scaling and expanding our global customer service team, expanding our European customer service team. And I think right now we're even recruiting for people who are, for German speaking customer service agents. So, shameless plug to the stockx.com/jobs, but, we're looking to hire people to help us scale it, because we want to continue to serve the customer. And so, we've expanded.
So there will be an office in Berlin, or what?
Well, so, I mean, there's lots of different ways, especially in COVID, with working remotely. We're constantly growing and evolving and trying to find ways to expand and support our international growth. Germany is such an important market for us, as one of the most important markets in Europe, and just has such a unique culture and history and market dynamics that we need to continue to invest specifically in Germany to support our German audience that continues to grow. So yeah, we're recruiting a number of roles that we focus on the German market. We'll continue to be finding ways to expand and support the German user, but it's definitely something that is a really high priority for us in Europe, of what we dedicate and invest in Germany. So yeah, definitely watch the spaces throughout the year. We'll be making other kind of investments and finding ways, but it's always through the lens of what is going to help us better serve the German consumer and our German community. And so customer service, we've also expanded into chat. So you can have live chat. If you go onto our website from your desktop, you can speak to a chat agent. And yeah, we're just continuing to invest because we need to. As much as I'm really proud of the growth we've had in customer service, it's always something that you focus on as a business that you want to do better.
There has been a confusion going on regarding the fact having the highest bid but not being able to buy the shoe. And you told us StockX is about the globalization of the market and giving the chance to sell worldwide and to buy worldwide. Maybe you can explain why is that and what it's all about.
Sure. So as I was saying before, in trying to maintain a global marketplace is such an important thing that we try to do, and account for these kind of international fees and taxes. So when you see all of the recent sales, you're seeing sales from anywhere in the world. And so if it's a seller in California to a buyer in New York, they're going to have a different kind of level of, import. There's no import costs, right, that will affect that transaction. And so the price that you will see for a trade from LA to New York will just show as the price you see in the recent sales. Same with a sale from Hong Kong to Japan is going to have a different price for the same shoe than if you're in Germany trying to buy something from someone else in Germany, perhaps. So the prices that you see on the marketplace are always reflective of like looking at where you are and your dynamic and like what the price will be. And so
like
there
the
might not
status quo.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll see what's available to you. All prices included. So there'll be any additional taxes or fees you need to ever consider. But it'll be if a 320 euro shoe from a US seller is actually going to be more expensive than a 340 euro shoe from a German seller, because when you factor in the import and the import duties and taxes, that 315 euro shoe actually is much, much more expensive. So that's why it's not always going to be indicative of what's available to you based on where you are and the kind of other fees that go into it. Now, we're constantly looking at this part of the experience and other similar parts of the experience to say, how do we make this more clear and like less confusing for people, but without losing this like transparency of historic data? We don't want to manipulate that because that's such an important backbone of our business. So there's a few different things that are being considered, but that's really all that is. So if you're saying, hey, I'm bidding 325 euro, but I'm seeing someone pay, the last sale was 310 euro, and there's nothing available for that price, we're not skipping you. We're not ignoring your bid. It's because that's probably happening in a different region of the world where there's maybe a different cost structure. But it's still, we want to leave that there because it informs you of like, hey, what is the global price going here?
It's the global thing, right?
Exactly.
So, Derek, 2021 is not even halfway through. We're in April, and there's a lot of 2021 left to do great things. What's coming up next? What are the next steps for StockX and for your business?
Yeah, well, gosh, where to start really? So I think we talked a bit about we talked a bit about trends. We talked a bit about kind of like what we think is happening in sneakers. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what continues to happen with these other categories. I think we're going to continue to try to find interesting ways to not just talk about one product at StockX, but talking around narratives that thread through apparel and sneakers and things like that. We're going to have, I think to tease a couple things, the Euros coming up in June is such an exciting return of international sport in a way that I think is going to be such an exciting rebirth out the back of these lockdowns that we've seen. Obviously, the situation in every market in Europe is still very much challenging and fluid. But I would really hope we can celebrate that moment in Europe in a big way. So hopefully that's something that you guys can keep an eye for. We have we talked a bit about some of the drop X's that we've done. That's definitely something we want to continue to expand, and especially in Germany. There's so many great independent apparel brands, independent streetwear brands, and independent artists in Germany that we would love to work with, and we're hoping to work with this year. So I would say watch for more exciting product releases to bring directly to the consumer through StockX. That's something we want to continue to do. And then, if I look kind of across the business, a big thing we want to continue to do is evolve that experience and make it easier. So the things we're investing in will be, how do we get closer to our sellers? How do we get closer to our buyers? And so you can look for some big investments that are going to help us better serve the needs of our growing business. We talked a bit about customer service. That's obviously something we're constantly investing in. I think as COVID hopefully wanes, and we can start to return at some point this year to some return of normalcy, how can we engage with people in real life again? What are those types of opportunities that we can do to continue to, meet people in their markets, to engage in this great cultural community that we're a part of? So I think those are big things. And then, I can't say specifically what product categories, but again, to the point of the earlier part of the conversation, I would expect to see new products and new product categories start to emerge on the platform as well, as we continue to expand the offering of things that are important to the people of what they tell us. And so I think that's definitely something, and hopefully just continue to see see some growth. I just think hopefully we continue to find new people who haven't met us yet and try our platform, and that hopefully they have a good experience and then they want to come back and try a bit more. So I think those are probably some of the themes that I'd be thinking of. In the areas like the gaming community, in the collectibles community, what are new exciting things that we can do to engage those audiences and storytell around those products? How do we work with brands directly to release products directly on the platform? And then, sneakers are going to be exciting to watch throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, you already mentioned the real life experience you talked about when we spoke last time. Are these ideas, like, as soon as the pandemic gives us a chance to meet again in real life, that you can say, okay, this is our StockX pop-up, or this is our StockX real life user experience, we can start tomorrow? Or is this just an idea?
Well, I think it's I guess it's an idea because it's so hard to confirm a lot of these things until we know for sure what we can do, right? There's still so many things that we don't know. So as much as, we had a pop-up that ran in London for months that was great success and was a great part of the community, I would love to reopen that. I would love to open one of those in Berlin. I would love to open one of those in Paris. It's just we're really not with so much uncertainty right now. It's not something we can even plan fully to commit around because it's so hard to know what other constraints will actually dictate what we can and can't do. In London, we're sponsoring partnered with the Design Museum of London, which is running a Sneakers Unboxed exhibition, which is be a massive exhibition, one of the most highest integrity design institutions in the world, dedicated to sneakers. And so to be partnering with that, with a real life gallery experience that could potentially go to other markets, that's something that we're really excited about. But even that was something that was derailed originally by COVID. And so we want to do more of those kinds of things in all of the important markets that we have around the world. It's just, we have to wait and see what we're able to do. But we know as a business, meeting our community in real life is so important and is such an important way of connecting them with our brand and being able to evolve our brand and our relationship with those consumers. So whatever the constraints will be, we will find ways to navigate it, to engage with people in real life, because we know it's really important. We're so lucky in 2021 that, platforms like Clubhouse now have emerged, and there's more interesting ways to scale conversations and connect with people in intimate ways, to have unique conversations around these nuanced corners of culture. And so we will, so many of these things didn't exist 12 months ago, right? And so I think that that's so exciting of like, where we'll be 6 months from now? What will be the new opportunities that we have to do things together that we didn't ever really imagined? So it's, but I guess it all just comes down to this idea of how do we connect with our customers? How do we work with collaborators in a way that perpetuates this vibrant culture that we know is important, that we care about, and that will just inevitably lead us to things in real life and things that we do digitally, and whatever it takes to kind of achieve that goal.
So my final question to you, Derek, after being asked about the first 5 years of StockX, after talking about the wide range of products, of ideas, of solutions, and your current developments, direct-to-consumer businesses, online and offline experiences, all of that, if we will meet again in 5 years from now,
and we will,
what would you be most proud of to say about the first 10 years of StockX?
I think that my ambition for when I joined StockX, I saw this company, and being a sneakerhead all my life, I saw, wow, this fixes so many of my pain points that I've had as a sneaker collector over the years. I want to be a part of that. And I think that the model itself is so powerful that it can actually transform the way buyers and sellers connect, full stop. And so I saw an incredible opportunity there. But if I think of it from like what can you, I always think of something my father used to say to me, like, use your powers for good and not for evil, right? Like, do not go to the dark side, Luke. And it's really, I would hope that we know that StockX is already, because it's democratized access to these products, it's been able to make the sneaker culture and these culture communities, it's actually been able to make it bigger because it's allowed people to participate in that were never able to before, because they were the ones that were getting stuck with all the fakes. They were the ones that were getting exploited or robbed in parking lots, right? So we know we've been able to democratize access to those things. And I would hope that in 5 years from now, we could say even more, so that we really helped expand access to a culture that was really kind of kept in a niche, and that we actually were able to take that to more people. And I hope that is one thing, that we're able to actually help these communities expand by allowing people to access them better. That's one. And I really want to be able to say, look, not only did we make it grow, we helped it evolve in a healthy, vibrant way, that we actually added value to the community in a way that enhanced it. And I think of that through the lens of what we're trying to do with brands. A lot of similar kind of ideas to how I perceive what New Balance is doing, which is, how do we work to enable brands, creators, designers to reach audience of people who care about those values? Because if we can use our platform to do those kinds of things, then I think we can really transform this whole dynamic of who controls the culture. And the people who should control the culture and shape the culture are the designers and the consumers. And the dialogue that happens between the person who comes up with the idea and the person who consumes it and spends their hard-earned money on what that person has created, I want us to be facilitating as seamless of an interaction between those ideas and those consumers, because that's ultimately where I think culture is born. And I think we have a unique opportunity as a brand to do that in a way that can actually transform and empower the most important parts of this culture that has never existed before, because of all the reasons that retail and the fashion industry and the sneaker industry has been kind of imbalanced in where the power lies. I hope we can democratize that in a way that's actually going to, evolve and support a healthy, growing culture. And so that's, I think, 5 years from now, the two things I would want to say is, like, we actually helped make this thing bigger, and we made it better. And I don't think it's a very easy thing to do, but I would hope that that's the role that we should challenge ourselves to have within not just sneakers, but again, this current culture landscape, to all the people that participate in it, because the creators are consumers and the consumers are creators. It's not a diverse thing, right? Everybody's kind of participating in both ends of it. And I think being able to tap into that idea is so powerful, whether it's in Lego or it's in Pokemon cards or it's in independent apparel brands that we haven't heard yet, or what those designers are creating on sneakers. I think all of these things are important to the same idea. So maybe that's a bit naive, maybe that's a bit idealistic, but I really ultimately hope that that's what we can do. And I think that who knows what else will be part of current culture in 5 years.
Derek, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Many thanks. Stay safe and healthy, of course, and talk to you soon, and say hello to the London pubs from us.
I will indeed. I will definitely cheers you guys with a pint from there. And Simon,
yeah, please do so.
It's been 12 months and we still haven't drank any Riesling together. So I think we are not allowed to. We need to definitely rectify that, whether it's on your side of the channel or mine.
I drank a lot of Riesling in the past 12 months, but not together with you. And this is what we definitely have to follow up on. I absolutely agree.
Awesome. Guys, always a pleasure. I'm such a big fan of you guys, what you do, and so happy to speak to you anytime. So look forward to the next session.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Und damit vielen lieben Dank, dass ihr bei der 78. Episode mit dabei wart. Ihr könnt alle Episoden wie gewohnt kostenlos auf Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcast, Podtail, Podigy und bei allen anderen Streamingdiensten hören. Und wir würden uns sehr freuen, wenn ihr dem Oshun Podcast und unserem News-Podcast O-News dort folgt, wo ihr Podcasts am liebsten hört. Schaut auch auf Facebook und Instagram.com/Oshun Podcast vorbei und interagiert mit uns und der Community. Checkt auf jeden Fall auch die Sneaker-Suchmaschine Sneakerjägers und werdet Teil der Sneakerjägers Germany Community. Sehr freuen wir uns über 5 Sterne und eine positive Bewertung bei Apple Podcasts. Über 350 positive Bewertungen hat Oshun schon und eine Rezension würden wir gerne mit euch teilen. Chris schrieb vor ein paar Wochen, höre den Podcast nun schon seit Jahren und er ist und bleibt der beste Sneaker-Podcast, den es gibt. Amma und Simon sind echt zwei super Typen. One Love. Vielen lieben Dank. Tut uns einen Gefallen und supportet die Podcasts und erzählt mindestens einem Freund oder einer Freundin, die sich für Sneaker und Streetwear interessiert, von uns. Show some love. Dankeschön. Und wir hören uns in der nächsten Episode wieder. Bis dahin, macht's gut.
Tschüssi.
Oh Schuhen, der Sneaker-Podcast mit Simon Buß und Amadeus Thüner. Alle 2 Wochen auf iTunes, Spotify und YouTube.